Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Heinrich Schiff. Ta-da! The great cellist. Now, I have to say, I miss Heinrich Schiff. I really miss him. He was such a nice guy. I remember so vividly, when he was playing in New York or whatever he was doing, he would hang out in the classical section of the Lincoln Center Tower Records, where all of us were hanging out, and we would just sort of sit and schmooze for hours. He was the nicest person you'll ever want to meet. Funny and enjoyable and just a delightful musician to talk to. And he really, I think his personal warmth really comes over in his playing. And, I kind of hate to say things like that because I'm not into anecdotal stuff, as some of you may have noticed in the comments. I'm only into sound, the noise people make. But boy, did he have a sound. He still has the best Bach cello suites out there. I don't care what anybody says, but they're on EMI. And this box, the first thing we're talking about here, is on Decca, formerly Phillips. And these are his Phillips recordings for the most part. It says the complete recordings on Phillips and Deutsche Grammophon. Of course it isn't, but we'll get to that in a minute. This is one of those boxes of doom, which is going to fall out and kill you when you pick it up off the shelf, unless you can store it, upside down like this, or maybe sideways and upside down like that. Can't these people just make a normal box? I don't get it. Okay, so Heinrich Schiff. Let's see what he did for Deutsche Grammophon and for Phillips, which is now Decca. We've got, let's see, how does this look? We'll pull these suckers out. Here they are. They are original jackets, which some people care about. I have no idea why, but they are all original. And they are jackets, but I think I can do it, can I do this from the booklet, or do I have to do this from the actual discs? I think I have to do it for the actual, yes, because the little bookie says nothing about what is in the box particularly, so forget the bookie, and let's just talk about the individual jackets. CD1, I'm just running through this stuff now. We're not going to make a Megillah of it, as we say in the biz, but here we go. Since we just read the Megillah a few days ago, let's see here. We get Vivaldi, concertos for cello with Iona Brown and the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields. How can you mess those up? Of course he doesn't. Schiff had such a beautiful tone. It was a big tone, but he could really pinpoint precision and a wonderful rhythmic exactitude, which works quite well in Vivaldi. You never get the sense he's playing Baroque music, that he's too hot and heavy for it. I mean, some people like to hear, we don't need to go into that, scratchy Baroque cello things, but I'll take Heinrich Schiff any day. And Vivaldi. And we've got, some more Baroque stuff. Sonatas by Vivaldi, Gemignani, more Vivaldi, more Gemignani, with Jaap ter Linden and Ton Koopman. See, it's periody. Ooh, period-like. So he understood that kind of style thing and worked with those people, which is very nice. Then we have, let's see, the Heightened cello concertos and this other thing? And the Haydn Sinfonia Concertante. This is a wonderful performance with the English Chamber Orchestra and Salvatore Accardo conducting and playing the violin. What a lovely disc that was. Wonderful performance. Absolutely wonderful. It's one of those things that's sort of hidden somewhere. You forget that they even made it. At least I did, And it's just such a nice thing to see it popping up again, because where else are you going to put it, You don't find these things highlighted the way they could be, especially even when they're great. Oh, look, this one is stuck together with some sort of gummy, sticky. Okay. All right, well, we got rid of that. Okay, Beethoven. This is wonderful. The complete works for cello and orchestra with Till Fellner. I have to tell you something about Till Fellner. Till Fellner now, I was at MIDEM, the convention, the Marché International du Disque Édition Musicale in Cannes, France, back in the days when the record labels did things and spent money and had money. And one of the biggest deals, that press, huge public rollout presentation was Irato's signing of Till Fellner. So Erato signed Till Fellner, and that was basically the last we ever saw of Till Fellner. No, he did do a few things on that label, but then he showed up on Phillips doing a marvelous, marvelous Beethoven cello and piano thing with Heinrich Schiff, and here it is. So I hope Till is doing well. That was sort of toward the end, before the industry knew that it had collapsed. And so it was still going through the motions of pretending everything was fine. And I pity the artists who signed up at that point, because nothing happened after that. They didn't do any sort of promotion or major work with them, although Till did produce a few recordings at the time, and he looked very happy at the press conference. Oh, well. Anyway, let's see. What have we got here? Brahms, Piano Trio number 1. Beethoven, Piano Trio number 7. That's the Archduke, with Victoria Mullova and Andrei Previn. Well, those are okay, I guess. I mean, it's an odd little sort of disc, not part of a series or anything. But, Victoria, it was always wonderful. She's a very serious violinist. I like her. She has this dark, dusky tone. And Previn, Previn, I never really thought of him as a Beethoven pianist, because he was always a little bit too, what's the word? He didn't have a lot of fire in his belly at that point in his career. You know what I mean? But they play well together, and that's what matters. And then, this is beautiful. This is the Schubert quintet with the Haagen Quartet and Schiff making a quintet. This is a beautiful performance, really, really first rate. And you get the Beethoven Grosse Fuga as a not inconsiderable filler. Wow, baby. I always enjoyed this version of the Schubert. It's beautiful. The Haagen Quartet's another one of those groups that, came on like gangbusters, made some wonderful recordings. They were a terrific group. And, vanished. Disappeared from Deutsche Grammophon. And that was that. But there they are. And let's see, what's this one? Schumann Cello Concerto with the Berlin Philharmonic and Heightened. I still think the Schumann Cello Concerto is as dull as ditch water most of the time, but I would say Schiff does a very good job. Heightened is always a fine accompanist. And then you get with Gerhard Opitz his other, music for cello and piano. The 5 Stücke and the Fantasia Stücke and all those other Stückes. Every Stücke you could possibly want. And the Adagio and Allegro in A flat. There you go. There's something to play your friends and ask who wrote that. See if they get it right. And let's see. Brahms cello sonatas with Gerhard Opitz. Very, very fine performances of very difficult works. I find the Brahms cello sonatas to be tough. They are tough, in particular because they tend to sound like the piano and the cello have nothing to do with each other. I mean, the parts are so separate. It's very, very strange. But these are very, very well integrated performances. And who can forget the Brahms double concerto with Court Mazur? And again, Salvatore Accardo. I think it's as nice to hear Accardo as it is to hear Schiff, quite frankly, because he was always just a wonderfully sensitive violinist who seems to have dropped off the map. And he did some wonderful, wonderful things. So this is a beautiful performance. And then there's the Elgar Cello Concerto with the Staatskapelle Dresden and Neville Mariner. An interesting grouping of forces. The Elgar Concerto is another one of those pieces that, of course, Elgarians love. I don't very much care for it. I find it rather droopy and kind of uninteresting melodically. But that's me. That's just me. Other people adore it. Frankly, if it hadn't been by Elgar and, it hadn't been a cello concerto, people play it because there just aren't that many great cello concertos out there. So they do this one. That's how I feel about it. But that's me. Again, like I said, I wish there were more cello concertos and better ones. I truly do. I mean, there are actually a lot of them, but the best ones are sort of modern. More modern than Elgar, more modern sounding than Elgar. Anyway, Dvorak Cello Concerto and Silent Woods. This is his first recording of it. He did it twice. This is the one with Colin Davis. The other one he did with Andrei Previn and the Vienna Phil, and that's the better one. It really is. It's just livelier and more rhythmic, and it has more edge and a little bit more intensity, although this is very, very good. This was one of the reference recordings of it until the new one came out. But the new one really is one of my top picks. And so here's the new one. Look at that. Speak and it shall appear. And you get Silent Woods. Oh, who knows? Who knew? And you also get the Rondo in G minor and the Slavonic Dance number 8 in G minor. Da 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 ba da ba ba da, with Andrei Previn on the piano. This is just a great record. I mean, this is such a fabulous performance of the Dvorak Concerto. I can't even begin to tell you. As much for the Vienna Philharmonic, quite frankly, and Previn's very unusually alert conducting as for Schiff. It's just a wonderful partnership. A really symphonic, beefy, oh gosh, it's gorgeous. CD 13, I think there are like 22 in here. Yeah, 21 CDs here. Saint-Saëns, Cello Concerto number 1, Fauré Elegy, Lalo, Cello Concerto. The new Philharmonia under Charles Mackerras. Oh, I love this. The new Philharmonia, boy, he was young. Mackerras was young. The Philharmonia was new. What's not to love? I happen to think the Lalo Concerto is probably the stupidest concerto ever written for the cello, but it has its moments. Lalo was so inept when it came to large forms. I just have to say that. And the first movement, oh my God, it's just this abortion in terms of sonata form. The rest of it's lovely. The slow movement and the finale are charming. But the first movement, I mean, his idea of sonata form is to just write something with lots of chords, loud chords. Blat, 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 blat. I saw Yo-Yo Ma do it last, I think, some years ago, and I just could not believe people were playing this thing. I really couldn't. Like I said, we need better cello concertos, or we need to play the modern ones more frequently. The really great modern cello concertos, like Eunice Kokkonen and, people like that who wrote really nifty cello concertos. And the Finzi. Oh, that's a great piece. No one ever does that. Then we've got like Encore. Okay, music by. Take a breath. You ready? Wieniawski, Tchaikovsky, Mio, Saint-Saëns, Fauré, Defaya, Granados, Chrysler, Paganini, Minardi, Schmidt, Prokofiev, Glier, and Joplin. That's one hell of an encore. It sounds very encore-ish. And let's see, what do we got here? Strauss, Don Quixote. Yeah. This is the whole disc, actually, that had that. This is the Mazur recording of Don Quixote. Now, Mazur is, as we all know, not exactly the liveliest bulb in the chandelier. But, he did a good job, and Schiff does a good job, and you get Till Eulenspiegel. It's a very good Till Eulenspiegel, actually. And the Romance in F for cello and orchestra, which never gets played by anybody other than as a coupling to discs such as this. So that's nice to have, too. I like Don Quixote. It's fun. It's a nice flowing performance of it. It's not going to win any awards for, thrills, but hey, what do you want? Let's see. Rachmaninoff Cello Sonata. Ooh, this is hot and heavy. Fantastic. Sibelius's Melancholia, Rachmaninoff's Vocalese, and the Dvorak Polonaise in A with Elizabeth Leonskaya on the piano. So it's nice and Russian sounding in places. Let's see. Prokofiev, the Symphony Concerto. Boy, that is such a ball buster of a piece. Brutally difficult, formally a little bit dysfunctional, not an easy piece to bring off. It really isn't. It sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't. I happen to like it. And this is with the LA Phil and Previn. It was beautifully recorded with a very fine Prokofiev 7th Symphony that they have happily left on the disc. It's nice that you get the whole enchilada, as it were, that as it was originally issued. That's really a good thing. And then we have, Bernd Alois Zimmermann. Yeah, the Canto di Speranza, the cantata for cello and small orchestra. Rather a cool piece. And the cello concerto in forme de pas de trois. Yeah, it's in the form of a pas de trois. So if you had 3 feet, then you could dance to it, I think, if that's the concept. And then the concerto for oboe and small orchestra, and the trumpet concerto. This was a wonderful disc. I mean, this was like, one of the only major discs of Zimmermann's music that you could get for many, many, many years. And it turned a lot of people onto the composer. He was a very good and very disturbed individual. And this is still one of the great recordings of his music. So that's fun to have. And then we get, we're up at 19 already, Shostakovich cello concertos. With the Bavarian Radio and Maxim Shostakovich. This is the reference recording for the Shostakovich cello concertos. It was, it is, it always will be. Hallelujah, hallelujah, amen. Yes, this is the one. Get this. If you don't have it, you should have it. It was on the Phillips originals, when they tilt the thing like this and put it in the slightly different looking CD thing to reissue it. And so it looked like it was on an angle, Phillips originals, I don't know, whatever they called it. Great, absolute great. Great, fabulous performance. Never equaled. Well, maybe equaled, but never surpassed. I hate to say, never equaled because people equal things all the time nowadays. But certainly it's one of the great cello and orchestra discs out there. And in the Shostakovich discography, it has pride of place in cello concerto land. And then we've got Ludoslovski and all these other interesting people. The Ludoslovski Cello Concerto, which is a very interesting piece. I like it very much. It's such a expressively direct work. It was written for Rostropovich, you may recall, and he recorded it too quite well. And it's one of those pieces where the cello is almost as if mute, and then gradually opens up and learns how to speak and become expressive. It's really a moving piece. You should really, you have to pay attention to what's happening to it, but it's great. And then Vincent Laurier, his Concerto da Camera, which is a delicious sort of neoclassical confection. And it's with Gideon Kramer and Isabel van Keulen and Alwa Posh, that's a Concerto Grosso thing. And then Schnittke's String Trio with Gideon Kramer and Tabia Zimmerman. It's just marvelous collection. So that's it. And then finally, we get Friedrich Gulda, the Concerto for Cello and Wind Orchestra, which is delicious, and the Beethoven's Variations, Opus, what is this, Opus 90 or Opus 88, from the Magic Flute, Ein Mädchen oder Weibchen, that thing. And this is really great. The Gulda is a wonderful piece, by the way. It is conducted by Gulda. It's a delightfully witty work, and this is, the best performance of it you'll ever hear in your life. And that is the complete Schiff, except it isn't. It's not because, let me explain to you, because on this disc, not this disc, was it this one? Well, it was this disc that had the Schnittke String Trio. I think it was on this disc. But one of these discs, Schiff gave up playing the cello because he had serious pain in his shoulder. He had a joint problem, and so he had to give up playing the cello, and he became a conductor. And he was really a very good conductor. An excellent conductor, actually. I mean, his work as a conductor is just as valuable as his work as a cellist, his work as a soloist. He was a real musician's musician. He had things to say. He had insights, And so when he did the Schnittke, it also included, I think it was his Concerto Grosso No. 1. It was a Deutsche Grammophon thing. And he conducted it. Didn't have a cello part. But he was the conductor. And it's not here. So it's not complete. And there's no excuse for that. They could have just put the Schnittke disc in there. Why not? However, you can get it here. Now, this is a very interesting collection for Heinrich Schiffians. This is on the Neos label. It's called Homage, Heinrich Schiff, and it consists of 17 CDs, and it's got music for cello and the stuff he conducted. And it's really very extensive. It's a much more extensive disc for all of its 17 CDs than the 21 or 22 or 21 CDs in here. It really is. It's a wonderful set. I'm going to just tell you what's in it because it's fascinating and it's licensed from, everybody. So, and I could actually do this with the booklet, which is much more convenient. Okay, so we get a couple of Bach cello suites. These are private recordings. These are not EMI recordings. You get suites numbers 1 and 4. Recording EMI Electrola Sion, 1984. It says private recording, 1983. First release of one of them, of number 1. Number 4 is the EMI recording. And number 5 is the EMI recording, but you don't get all of them, which is, it's okay. And then you get a Geminiani thing, which is the Phillips recording, and a Vivaldi thing, which is the Phillips recording, and now we're on CD 2. Then we get the Beethoven Variations again with Gulda, with Schiff and Gulda, which we just talked about. And we get Walische und Irische Lieder. Oh, yes, Welsh and Irish Lieder with Fischer, Dieskau, Yehudi Menuhin, Schiff, and Hartmut Hall. And that's an EMI thing, you see? So you get an even more varied assortment of Schiff's work. And then we get, what's this thing? Oh, the Beethoven Opus 69 Sonata with Christian Zacharias. That's a live recording from the Salzburg Festival in '82. And the Beethoven Sonata Opus 102 number 2 with Till Fellner. Good old Till. He's back. He's probably so happy he gets to show up on another label. And that's the Phillips recording. And then we get Schiff conducting Beethoven's Fifth with the WDR Symphony Orchestra in Cologne, where he made a lot of his recordings. And it's quite good. Very good. You should hear it. You really should hear it. And the Beethoven Violin Concerto with Thomas Zayetmeyer and the Wiener Kammer Orchestra. Lovely performance by some very smart people playing some very smart music. Yeah, it's really cool. Then we get Mozart's Linz Symphony with the Camerata Salzburg and Mozart's 40th with the Northern Sinfonia. You know, because remember, Schiff was actually the conductor of the Northern Sinfonia for many years. And so he made a lot of recordings with them too. And they've all sort of disappeared. So here are some of them. And the Mozart Rondo in C for violin and orchestra with Christian Tetzlaff and the Northern Symphony. And anything Tetzlaff does you want to hear as a matter of course. Schumann, Cello Concerto, Berlin Philharmonic Heightened. We just talked about that one. That was in there. And then the Adagio and Allegro with Gerhard Opitz, which we also talked about that you can play for your friends and ask them to guess who wrote it. Remember? And the Fantasia Stucke. We got the Stucke. And then the Schumann Second Symphony. Ooh, Schiff conducting with the Oslo Philharmonic live recording from 1996. Then we've got the Brahms First and Second Sonatas again with Opitz. These are the Phillips recordings. And then the Clarinet Trio. Yeah, Opus 114 with Rudolf Buchbinder, Sabine Meyer, and Schiff on the cello. That's from EMI. And then the Brahms trio. This is the first trio, but this is the EMI recording with Ulf Holscher and Christian Zacharias. And the double concerto, and this one, oh yeah, this is the different double concerto. This is the EMI one. See, these people were so incestuous. They just went running around doing the same stuff. This is with the London Phil and Wolfgang Sawallisch with Frank Peter Zimmermann violin. You're going to want that. Dvorak, cello concerto with Previn. Yeah, they picked the right one. Yes, 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 yes. I love it when they pick the right ones, don't you? Isn't that wonderful? And Valdis Ruha, well, it's everything that was on that disc. But you get also Schiff conducting, get this, the Carnival Overture with the Staatskapelle Dresden, a live recording from MDR. And then he does Bruckner 4 with WDR Cologne. I mean, yeah, Bruckner 4 with Schiff conducting. Can you believe it? And Brooks Called Nidra with Bruno Weinmeister cello with the Deutsche Staatsphilharmonie Rheinland-Pfalz. Yeah, look at that. That's another live recording. That's from SWR. And then he does Mahler 1 with the SWR Symphony Orchestra Baden-Baden and Freiburg. This is a really good Mahler 1. It really is. The ending is incredibly exciting. Wonderfully exciting. It's a marvelous performance with a really cogent and punchy finale. It's really surprisingly marvelous. I really enjoyed it. And then he does Totenfeier, the first movement of Symphony No. 2 in its original version, which should never, ever be revived or ever played ever for any reason, because it's not even 100 billionth as good as the final revised first movement of the Second Symphony. And that's with the NDR Symphony Orchestra of Hamburg. I mean, it's a perfectly fine performance of it, but, you know. And the Vieuxtemps Cello Concerto No. 2 is Schiff and Neville Mariner. So that's an EMI recording. And let's see, we get Paganini, some stuff with Schiff and Sanders, and that's just two little piecelets. You don't even have to get into it. Tchaikovsky's Valse Sentimentale, Opus 51, No. 6, again with Schiff and Samuel Sanders. And then the Tchaikovsky Politique Symphony, yes, with Schiff conducting the SWR Symphony Orchestra of Baden-Baden and Freiburg. I mean, isn't this cool? Who knew he did all this stuff? You know, there's a lot here. And it so rounds out his personality as a musician and interpreter. And then you get Prokofiev, the Romeo and Juliet Ballet Suite with the same SWR people. It's Opus 64. It's selections from both suites. And then you get, let's see, some other things. Let's see, Glier and Helmut Schiff, who was, I think, his dad or something like that. Two duos for violin and cello with Andreas Reiner and Heinrich Schiff. And then the Shostakovich cello sonata, Opus 40, with Simon Bartow. That's live for the Salzburg Festival. Simon behaves himself in that performance, which is kind of unusual for him. And then we get the Shostakovich cello concertos. Yes, another great pick. Another one with Maxim Shostakovich. And finally, here on CD 14, we get Schnittke, the Concerto Grosso No. 1. Yeah, for violin, harpsichord, prepared piano, and string orchestra with Gideon Kramer, Tatiana Gridenko, Yuri Smirnov, the Chamber Orchestra of Europe, and Heinrich Schiff conducting. Conducting, folks, he's conducting. And it's on Deutsche Grammophon, and it's not in the box. For shame. Those Decca people, you know. And then we've got the Sonata for Cello and Piano No. 1 by Schnittke, a live recording from Vienna in 1984. And the String Trio. Well, here's that recording of the String Trio. With, with Kramer, Tabia Zimmermann, and Heinrich Schiff. It's a live recording. I don't know if it's exactly the same one. It's from Lockenhaus in 87. I could go back and check, but I just can't get the enthusiasm for it. But, here's the point. If you're going to do it complete, do it complete. Do your homework. Then we've got Ludoslovski's Cello Concerto with Ludoslovski, as we all know, which is quite marvelous. That was on Phillips. And then let's see, what's this one? Oh, and then he conducts the Ludoslovski with Christian Poltera, who was one of his students, with the SWR Symphony Orchestra, and Musique Funèbre, also with the Mahler Chamber Orchestra, with Schiff conducting. And then, let's see, what's this? Metamorphosen for cello and piano. That's also by Ludoslovski, right? Yes, isn't it? Okay, yeah. And then we have, CD 16. This is yummy. Rudy Stefan, fun composer. He was killed, I think, in World War I, or he died in 1915 anyway, or close around, something to do with World War I. Whatever happened to him happened, and he died. He was quite young, 1887 to 1915. His music for orchestra, 1912, which is really a good piece. A very good piece. And that's with the SWR Symphony Orchestra. And then we have the Zimmermann Cello Concerto with Heinrich Schiff and Michael Gielen, which is Phillips Recording. And the Gulda, with Gulda doing his thing. And then on CD 17, which is the last disc in this box, right, because it's 17 CDs, yes, we've got Weber, the Overture to Oberon, and Schubert's Unfinished, and the Strauss Romanza with Mazur, right, we heard, and Vincenz Lachner, and some German dance thing, and the Debussy Sonata with Christian Zacharias, a live recording from ORF, and the Rachmaninoff Vocalese from Phillips with Leonskaya, and the Swan from the Carnival of the Animals, and the Wieniawski Scherzo Tarantella, and that's CD 17. It's 80 minutes on that disc. It's well-filled CDs. This is really one hell of a collection here on Neos, and while in a way, I kind of like it almost better than the Decca one, because you get some of the best things from the Decca one here. You get the Shostakovich, you get the best of Dvorak, you get some of his contemporary music, and then you get just a lot of stuff that he conducted, which is really very, very interesting. And it just rounds out his career quite marvelously. I like both. The trouble is the duplication. Why would you want to get both boxes and duplicate all of the best of what's in this box in this box? So you really got to, be smart and be economical and be strategic and pick the one that you think suits you best. Certainly the musicianship is just extraordinary. And, there's so many things in here I wouldn't want to give up, like, the Beethoven music for cello and orchestra with Till Fellner. But then there's a whole other series of things he did on EMI too. Maybe some year Warner will issue a Heinrich Schiff box. You never know. These things tend to come in clumps. You know that. But still, it's wonderful that these are available. He was just an outstanding artist, a wonderful human being. It's a delight to be able to bask in the memories of his really glorious musicianship and tell you about these two sets. So, keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.